Recently, there has been an increase in brain drain in Nigeria. Many Nigerians now seek opportunities outside the country. What does this mean for us as a country, and what is the way forward? You're welcome to another episode of Talk It Out with Esther Adisa. I'm your host. You're welcome. Now, I have a very special guest with me in the studio today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, Esther. It's great to be here. A Merry Gift Sunday.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. I know you're a very busy person, so thank you for taking out
I can
time to be
imagine.
here.
I think we're all busy.
Yeah. Okay. So now there's been this mass movement of Nigerians
Yes.
seeking opportunities outside the country. What would you say has led to this particular movement?
I think primarily on the scale of things that has
Okay.
led to this, some people call it a massive exodus.
Yes, yes,
I think primarily at the economic realities. But I think we need to put this all, we call it Japa here, yeah,
yes.
but it's an issue of migration. It's not peculiar to Nigeria alone. I mean, you can talk about migration, you can talk about the oldest man. Well, as far back as our memories would allow us to. We know about herdsmen. We call them nomadic herdsmen. They move from
Yes.
one clime to another clime, seeking greener pastures. Things haven't particularly changed from how they were, but maybe our realities have changed. Of course, there was a
Okay.
time where it was just cattle, horses and all of that. But now you're talking about cars, you're talking about aeroplanes, you're talking about jets
Okay.
that
Okay.
facilitate maybe movement to even more farther geographical location
Okay.
than what we probably would have gotten, say, maybe like a century ago or 2 centuries ago. So basically, migration in itself is not a phenomenon that is new, it's something that has
Yes.
always been.
Yes.
But realities have changed. So we could also look at the percentage of migration we've also had over time as compared to probably what we had, say, like 5 decades ago or 3 decades ago. If we situate with Nigeria, for instance, we can see migration, this whole Japa thing, come
Yes.
from the late 80s to the 90s after oil was found and all of that. And then after that point where more Nigerians got more exposure, especially to education outside the shores of Nigeria, then you see more of our skilled workers migrating. And then as the years go by, we have more and more people migrating. Of course, like where I started from,
Okay.
economic realities.
Yes.
Man generally would want to go to a place where you are assured of security, you are
Okay.
assured of shelter, you are
Okay.
assured of food,
Okay.
to some good extent, health coverage also. So
Okay.
basically, the economic realities. And some people, maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, some people who just want to travel and see the world, that percentage on that
Yes.
scale is
Yes.
low.
Yes.
But basically, at the base, you find the economic realities. People want better economic opportunities.
Okay, like you said, it's been year over time. Brain drain has been happening
Yes,
over time, but lately there has been an increase.
yes.
Yes, and what would you say has led to this increase? Would you say it is the situation of the country? Because this has been affecting certain sectors
Yeah,
in the country,
yes.
particularly the
The
healthcare
health
sector.
sector.
So, what would you say has led to this increase in brain drain?
Okay, so the brain drain, let's say as at the 80s, 90s, wasn't, we didn't have so much in other sectors as was prevalent in the health sector. But
Okay.
now, if you're talking present day realities, we have people not just in health sector, we have people in tech moving,
Yes.
we have people in
Yes.
the education sector moving,
Yes.
we have
Yes.
people in the fashion industry, we have people in practically almost every other sector you can talk about
Yes.
because there are
Yes.
more, the opportunities are more abundant right now than
Okay.
as it was then. You see, it was only doctors that were
Yes.
migrating. We have
Yes.
lawyers, right? I know a couple of
Yes.
lawyers, at least 2 or 3 of them, who have left the country in the past year. I mean, people I know closely.
Okay.
Yeah, so the economic realities is one of the major things. For instance, doctors have complained about their allowances. We saw COVID-19. COVID-19 was one of the things that really pushed more of our doctors to leave. We saw the way
Yes.
our government handled the demands of our doctors. Most of them didn't have their hazard allowances paid. Maybe some got paid, but not in time, not as a, they should have
Okay.
been paid.
Okay.
And then we see the same doctors getting offers abroad to come and fill in the,
Gap.
this the gap in those places, and they are offered sometimes
Better opportunities.
triple, sometimes quadruple, sometimes I don't know, let me not say 10 times so that I don't
Yes.
exaggerate, but
Yes.
they are offered those, opportunities, those benefits are there. They are also sure of a system that can support them health wise. So I mean, who would
Okay.
have that kind of opportunity and really don't want to move?
To
So for the
leave.
doctors, if we start off with the health sector, for the doctors, the working conditions in Nigeria were not just good enough for them. So they
Okay.
have had to move. And like I said, this situation is not peculiar to Nigeria. We have people from other, you have Indian doctors, you have some people from other parts of the world also
Okay.
migrate looking for
Okay.
those opportunities. So working conditions
Hmm.
not good enough. Let's talk about our health sector in Nigeria. It's not something that I think our country is currently proud of. But we're
Yes.
hoping that this new administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is going to, because I saw a sort of like a chart, and it showed his policy direction. I think I saw about 7 or 8 areas,
Okay.
and I see
Yes.
the health
Yes.
sector. In fact, one of the things that really tripped me was, I think I saw somewhere compulsory health insurance.
Insurance.
So I was like, wow,
Well,
this is
this is
impressive,
yes.
because
Yes.
I haven't
Indeed.
seen this happen for other governments, well, previous
Yes.
governments. Even though some of my friends are skeptics, they say, oh, it's not just enough to put it on paper. Let's see these things translate to practicalities. But for the health sector, that's that. Then another area we can look at is the tech sector. The
Okay.
recent CBN Naira policy, I mean, caused a lot of,
Yes.
should
It
we
is.
say, a lot
It
of
is.
ruckus.
Yes.
We
It
saw a lot
is.
of our tech guys migrate. I mean, in the space of 1 year, it's alarming how much of our tech guys have migrated. The economic situation back again is one factor you will find that cuts across all of the
All
sectors for
sectors
all of the people who are migrating from Nigeria to other
to
countries.
other
So most of these
countries.
guys feel, okay, we have more opportunities there. There are better conditions, living conditions there. When you pay your taxes, you get the benefits or the dividends
Oh
of paying your
yes.
taxes. There you also know when you pay your health insurance, when you have any issues, you can easily walk into the hospital. But here, we don't have those
We
systems
cannot really
working. We
say we
can't really
have a
say,
proper
yeah,
working
system. So
system.
one thing that cuts across are the economic realities and also the environment to allow our professionals blossom. We don't particularly
Hmm.
have those environments. Now, the question has always been, don't we have policies? Yes, we do have policies. We have lots of people, we have academics who have written papers, we have economists who have, suggested certain policies. But it is one thing to have a policy.
Policy.
It's
It's
another
another to
thing to implement
implement
it.
those policies.
So that's like a huge gap we have. Some policies
Yes.
are there. The government, I know certain governments, if you look at first world countries, they have what they call think tanks. So these are people that are like big shots, or a group of people who come do a lot of brainstorming, propose
Okay.
solutions, give
Okay.
ideas to governor. That's where you get to hear a lot of things. We hear stuff like white paper from certain
Yes.
conferences. We
Yes.
have lots of those reports, but have they been implemented?
Implemented.
Or do we just have those things done for, okay, let's get it done, so they don't say didn't do it, and then at the end of
Yes.
the day. So
Yes.
across board is the issue of the economy, how the economy is. Another thing, lots of young people, yes, because if you look at the age group of most of the people who are migrating now, we have a lot of youth migrating.
Okay.
Is the future. I don't think anybody wants to look to their future and look at a green future per se in quote and feel like,
Yes.
okay, let me just
Yes.
stay back. And then a lot of people have also lost hope. I'm trying to be very mild here in
Yes.
my
Yes.
usage
You are.
usage of
I
words.
mean, an average Nigerian just wants to leave the country. Okay, let me ask you this question. If you get an opportunity to leave the
Are
country
you
now,
putting me on the spot?
yes, I am.
She
Would
just
you
put
leave
me
the
on the
country?
spot. Well, let me come back here again. I think no one country can succeed on its own. This is what I'm
Hmm.
saying. If you
Okay.
check out most of the first world countries, check out countries like Saudi Arabia, check out countries like China. These are countries that understand the importance of skill acquisition. What do I mean? In terms of education, in terms of scientific exploration, Let's put
Okay.
that in quotes.
Okay.
If you check out the model China has used, check out the model Saudi Arabia, there are a couple of other countries, but China and Saudi Arabia come readily to mind, is they take a group of their youth, send them out to go and
Okay.
acquire certain skills, and then they come back and then develop their countries. So to answer your question, when I get the opportunity to leave, it's not with the sense of I want to run away, because the truth is Chinua Achebe is one person whom I actually totally love. And he always says, he said one thing that I never forget. He said, I'd rather be a king in my father's land than a slave in
The person's
another
land.
man's land. So
Yes.
it's not bad. Traveling, getting an education around the world is necessary for your whole development as a human being. But you see, leaving the country really isn't the problem, is the mindset and the motif
Yes.
that drives your leaving the
Yes.
country. That is
Yes.
the major problem. If you're leaving to acquire skill, it's good. But if you're leaving because you think you've lost hope, then you might need to check again. Because the truth be told, yeah, we might have our systems non-functional, might have a lot of things not working for us in Nigeria. But Nigeria
Okay.
is one of those countries that you can look at and has, I mean, I'm not saying massive, I mean massively massive potentials. And that's why we also need a government that has a strong will, not just the desire, but has the will to
To
make
actually
things
effect
work.
change
Yeah,
in the
effect change.
country.
We've seen President Tinubu. That I'm not a spokesperson for him, but before you know
Okay.
it, he's been
What
in
has been
office
doing so
for
far?
barely a month,
And
and
it's been
so far he
working.
signed. I think he signed about 4 different bills into law.
Yes, we have the electricity bill.
We have the other bill on oh geez, I forgot to forget. There are
Yeah,
about four
definitely.
particular bills he
And it
signed.
also removes the subsidy on fuel.
Yes, I mean
Yeah.
that. And then I saw another very interesting thing come up, especially with the civil service, the earn as you work
Oh yes,
principle.
yes,
I saw
yes.
that in the papers, I think sometime last week. So I mean, with what he's doing so far, it looks like we are, when you are off track is a major
Yes,
problem. So it
yes.
seems like we
We're
are
coming back,
gradually finding our way back
back.
on track. Now, getting back on track, if we're took 360 degrees totally off, it's going to take another 360-degree turn. So it's going to require
Mm,
some
yes,
patience. So it's going to take some
sometime.
process to. But I mean, if we see this particular government, at least, even if they don't get all the job done, get us back on track. So we're facing the right direction we should be facing. I give or
Okay.
take, say, in the next 10, 20 years, 1, 2 decades, we
Wow, that
just,
is a long time.
it's a long
Okay.
time, but I
Yes.
mean, this rot we found ourselves in has taken at least 30 decades. I mean, we're
Yes,
talking
it
talk
has.
talk
It
democracy.
has.
We're talking democracy has been for over 3 decades. Talk. I told you that for the health people, migration in the health sector, it started like in the late 80s. So if you're saying in the late 80s, we're talking at least 30 years. So if it's taking us 30 years to veer off course,
Then it's going to take us a
take us
long time to
maybe not
come
as long
back.
as 30 years, but it's going to take us at least a minimum of four. That's really,
Okay.
really, really optimistic to get
Okay.
back on course. But I
Oh,
don't think things
okay.
are gloomy as we painted. So basically, back to where I started from is that there are massive opportunities, but we need people in leadership to have that will to put their 2 feet on the ground and say, we're not going to allow this again, we're not going to allow this again. Another bill is a student loan
Low
bill. I'm trying
bill.
to remember that
Yes,
where we saw the
yes.
president saying, the child of the average, he said the child of the carpenter, the child of the vulcanizer, the child of the pepper seller, anybody who desires to have an
Yes.
education can
Can
have. So
easily have
yeah,
it.
so I mean, it's not impossible, but it's good. So two ways to it. If I have the opportunity to go, it's to go learn and then bring that skill back.
Scale
Then let me
back.
also add this. When we look at Japa or migration, as it were, it depends on the perspective we decide to see it from.
Okay.
I was reading an article that said 1 out of 6 families enjoys remittances from their close relatives who have traveled. So 1 out of 6 families.
Hmm.
Now, I might not have a direct, say, cousin or brother or sister, but I might have a
Okay.
friend who just says, already how far about it? Okay, so let me send you $20. So one of the
Okay.
ways that government can also, leverage on this whole issue of migration is through the avenue of remittances. One of the most beautiful
Okay.
things we've seen also, the policy direction change, is central bank devaluing the naira, where
Oh
we now
yes.
have a unification in all rates. Ideally, or before now, we've always seen people in diaspora not remit their
Yes.
funds through the
Yes.
central bank. They
Yes.
rather do it through the black market, because of course you know that the rates are higher, you can get more for your money. And that was hurting the economy, because we also see that for students who are traveling and need the central bank to pay certain amounts of money, it is those monies that maybe are coming through the back door. The central bank, then the government basically now subsidizes, and so it wasn't like a win-win situation. But now we have those remittances coming, since you know that the same rate you're getting it at the black market is the same rate you get it from the central bank. So if we have those monies come through our financial institution, it boosts the economy.
Yes, it
Another thing
does.
that we could also leverage, and I'm looking at the positives of Japa, because a lot of people like to stay on the negatives, but this is
Yes.
another positive of
Okay.
Japa. We have a lot of communities. Of one of the people I really appreciate, I've seen their communities and very strong communities, are the Indian communities, especially in Nigeria. I mean, those guys have a very strong bond. You see them move together, they acquire, properties and all of those things together. One of the things we also should learn to do, especially for those in diaspora, is to work together. Now, imagine we have 100 people in diaspora, and those 100 people decide to do $100 each. That's like $1,000. And then they
Yes.
decide, okay, for this $1,000 we remit every month, we are going to be investing in small businesses in
In the
Nigeria, not necessarily
country.
sending it to your family. Okay, you want to get a shoe, I'm giving you a shoe today, or you want to get a car, I'm giving you. But so by the time these monies come back, they are invariably boosting the economies back home. So at the end of the day, Japa is a win-win. It
Yes.
depends on
I was
how we
also
want to
going to
say it.
ask you that people say, a lot of people say there is a silver lining to Japan
Yes,
because when some people go, they leave room for others to take up the
yes,
space they were occupying.
yes.
So, yes,
Yeah,
what did
there's
you
that
make of
silver
that?
lining. We also can't deny the fact, because let's not be neurotic. The truth is, when you're
Okay.
talking about Japa, you're talking about the middle class and then the skilled workers. There is a void, a gap that is going to be there to
Sure.
happen, because when you have a major percentage of your skilled workers leaving, there are spaces to be filled. Now, for someone who is, let's say, on a level 8, and then someone who's on a level 4, it might take maybe a few more years for that other person on a level 4 to get to a
Definitely.
level 8. But at the end of the day, it's still good, because that void, they leave the opportunity for other people to be put under pressure and then up their game and step up. Yeah. And then talk about the population again. In Nigeria, we have about 53 point something percent of the youth unemployed. And in
Yes.
my head, I'm trying to think, what percentage of that 53 point something percent are actually skilled? So it's an opportunity. It might take us a few years to get back to, but it's on the long run, it's a win-win situation.
Okay, so before we go, let's talk about the recent UK ban on foreign students,
Okay.
including Nigerians. Now they've been told to reduce or not to bring dependents to the country. So if you're there as a student, you go there as a student. Now, most Nigerians, or let me say most foreign students, are used to bringing dependents and then changing from the student route to
To
the work route. Yes. So, do you think this has anything to do with brain drain reduction? Do you think it would have anything to do with brain drain reduction?
that's a very dicey one. It's a very dicey space to actually get into. At the end of the day, yes, I'd rather want to see it like some sort of regulatory approach. Yeah.
Okay.
The truth is, like I said again, it's not just peculiar to Nigeria. I saw those stats. I can't particularly remember the figures. I saw the stats for the Indians who are in the UK and how much dependence they have. And then I saw the stats for the Nigerians who are in the UK and how much dependence they have. For the Indians that are in the UK, their dependents are not up to half of. So if we say they are 100, they don't have up to 50 dependents. But for
Yes.
Nigerians, we say they are 100, Nigerians have
Yes.
about 150
Wow.
dependents. Yeah. So
Okay.
like I said, we still have to go back to the fundamentals. There is a fundamental problem, and it's the fact that a lot of people have lost confidence in our government. A lot of people have
Yes.
lost confidence in the ability of our administration to do what is right. So for them, it's like a let me get out of this situation and seek greener pastures, even if it means I have to do things that are not so cool at the end of the day. But we must also remember a lizard in Nigeria cannot turn to an alligator in the
Yes.
UK, in Australia, wherever it is you find yourself. So
True.
we must get the basics right. We must get it right that you have to go with the right mindset. So, for instance, we have a couple of people who just want to go study and come back. I give you the example of
Yes, it is
China,
indeed.
Saudi Arabia that send their guys out, say, go get the required skill sets, then come back and build. But mind you, one of the things I've observed is if you check out some of these people who've lived in the UK or in the US for like 3 decades, 4 decades, they have a very strong desire to come
Come
back.
back.
Check out, a lot of them have investments in Nigeria. I have a particular friend who just celebrated his 50th birthday. Is somewhere in the US. He has uh, hectares of land here
Here
in
in
Oyo State. I mean,
Nigeria.
matter of fact, here in Ibadan has hectares of land. And I was asking him, so what are your plans? He said he wants to retire, he wants to run a ranch, but he just has the fears. Will the government
Government.
make things work? Will
Right.
our country work? So if you see those people who have also developed their skill set, they've, they desire to come back, but their fear is will things work
Work.
at the end of the day. So it's about basically going with a good mindset. But mind you, no particular country can stop migration. Like I said, migration is as old as man. But if you make the living conditions suitable enough for your citizens, there will still
Yes.
be people who want to migrate, but a lot of
But
people
it's
want
going
to
to
stay back and
reduce
look. I
to a
want to read
great
something I think
extent.
I stumbled on. There was a recommendation by the IMF on what Nigeria should do, and I think it's quite
Okay.
instructive. Now, this is what the IMF suggested Nigeria does, that we should lower remittance costs, facilitate knowledge transfers from our
Okay.
diaspora, we should build skills in high demand globally, mitigate the adverse effects of brain drain. So if we lower remittance costs, we have more people remitting their funds from diaspora, facilitate knowledge transfer. So for instance, you live for the UK, now I'm still in Nigeria. I know that you're someone who does a lot of things in the media space. And then the government says, okay, we have our citizen, Esther, in the UK. Esther, for all the knowledge you've gathered in the UK, we need you to create a platform where you train 10,000 Nigerian youths on how they can maximize the digital space. Give us, you see, that's facilitation of
Yes.
knowledge transfer.
Yes.
So it
Yes.
really all depends on how we look at it.
All right. Thank you so much. This has been a very interesting conversation and very educative, I must say. Thank you again
Thank
for
you.
coming. And I do hope when next I call you, you'll be here.
I try.
Yes. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And until the next, stay safe.